Hi tech fans. Imagine power meets flexibility. Yes, we'll talk about Iron Man next time, but today we're going to speak about HPC and hybrid cloud. I'm Ricky Patel, Regional Sales Manager at Fujitsu, and this is Techfocus. I'm delighted to be joined today by Owain Kenway, Head of Research at UCL. So Owain, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I was Head of Research Computing at UCL. The Head of Research would be very angry at me. I'm the Head of Research Computing at UCL, so my group looks after all the HPC, AI, and data services that we provide centrally at University College London. UCL is, I think we call ourselves London's global university. We've been sitting in the heart of London for about 200 years. It'll be our bicentennial in 2 years' time. And yeah, we study pretty much everything.
Wow. So let's talk about the journey that you've been on from a digital transformation aspect. Can you share some of your details?
Yeah, so over the past 4 years, we've been making a move from what I would call traditional HPC services. So that's where you have a platform that you log into a Unix shell, you compile your optimized Fortran code, and you run it through a batch scheduler, to something that looks a lot more like an on-premise cloud. And we've wanted to do that because it will enable us to make services that are more friendly for users and also have a sort of more fine-grained security layer for handling sensitive data, so like medical data or commercially sensitive data, which is challenging under the old model.
So what challenges have you found?
Well, I always say that in HPC, there are three limiting factors you will have. That you either will not have enough money, not have enough data center space, or not enough people. And I think we've had all of those over the past 4 years. We've been sort of frantically hiring, which has been challenging. It's really difficult to hire good staff, particularly in London, where they can walk down the road and have a massive salary at a financial institution. Data center space in London is especially difficult because London's very dense and property prices are very high. And money, of course, being a university is always challenging. So those are kind of the big sort of picture problems.
Okay, so in terms of those challenges, I guess, how are you overcoming those in that journey to HPC and hybrid cloud?
So on the people side, we've kind of decided to start attacking this from the bottom, right? One of the problems in HPC is there's a sort of very set number of people in the UK who do it, and they kind of move around like a sliding tile puzzle between the jobs. So we decided to do something different, and we are working on creating new stuff. So we've started doing apprenticeships. We're doing teaching within the university to try and convince students this is a good career. So we're trying to produce a situation where there'll be more employees for everyone. I'm happy if one of my apprentices goes off to a well-paid job at Amazon. That's fantastic. But it's, creating that sort of set of space. In terms of the data center piece, we've been struggling a bit. Been looking at data centers around the country. We do a little bit of public cloud, not as much as probably a business would, because we have so in HPC, our constraint is the financial amount of money we can spend. There's always more demand for our services internally than there is money. And the difference in cost for public cloud just makes it untenable to do that for HPC. So what we've started doing is looking at data centers dotted around the UK to expand into. On the financial side, it's really about making the case to the university that all research areas. So going back to my original comment about how we're trying to be more cloud-like, a lot of that is driven by the fact that with AI and data science before that, there's been a big sort of rise in using compute in disciplines you would not expect, right? I have users in like the Faculty of Laws who use HPC for analyzing, the genetic path of law as it changes. And I think there's going to be a point in the future where you're not going to be able to do like a postgraduate degree or any kind of research without having to do some statistical analysis on a computer, right? I think that's going to touch every field. And part of that means we're bringing new users in, right? So that old model where you have your Unix shell, your highly optimized Fortran code, your batch scheduler, that works very well for chemists and physicists because they've been doing it for 30, 40 years. And so they've kind of got the pipe flow of training people to do that. I think when you're bringing in people from new fields in social and historical sciences or, some of the newer biological fields, there's a real resistance to working in that way because it is very old fashioned, right? And we've got to give them the tools that they want so that we get out of the way of them doing their research. Like there's a lot of stuff where before researchers can get thinking about what they're doing, they have to do a lot of setup, and we kind of want to remove that barrier.
So it sounds like the investment is into people as well as technology. And there's obviously how people are adapting to using technology in the right way in relation to their roles. What learnings would you share with others that are kind of embarking on the same journey?
So I think there's kind of two things. The first is there's this joke that I know was fluttering around X about 6 months ago, but is true all the time, which is, we choose to do these things not because they're easy, but because we thought they were easy. Standing up a lot of this cloud-like infrastructure is very difficult and time-consuming, and it does involve a lot of institutional change. So we are a small department as part of a bigger IT organization. And you have to be aware that your priorities aren't necessarily the priorities of the entire organization, and plan and make sure you build the relationships elsewhere in like networks or authentication or whatever, any other teams that you rely on, right, to do your stuff, so that when you do things, they're done in a timely way. And I think the other is that you really need to talk to your user base about what they actually want and be realistic in communicating timelines to them, because things take longer than you expect. We know this, right? We work in IT. IT projects always take longer. It's very easy to get very excited by the possibility of doing a new thing with a new researcher and promise them the world. And then 6 months down the line, because things have been delayed, they're very upset.
So goalposts move accordingly. What does utopia actually look like for you in UCL?
I think, it's getting out of the way, right? I think there is a future vision that I'm trying to get towards, which is that a researcher shows up at UCL, they need to use computers for their research, whether it's to analyze some statistics in MATLAB or do some machine learning, or, just get access to a large data set that they need to have access to their work. It's easy to find. They don't have to go through a great deal of onboarding to learn sort of new, weird, proprietary to UCL things. They can just start MATLAB or start Python or whatever and have access to that data. And I think we will get there. It's the path we're on. But it will be 4 or 5 years, I'd imagine, before that's sort of realized.
And it's taken people with you on that journey.
Yeah. Exactly.
So any final thoughts around HPC and cloud and how that is part of your future plans?
Yeah, so I think one of the things, so HPC and cloud, I think often people see them as like opposed. And I think that's because they see the public cloud model and the on-premise HPC model and see that they're somehow enemies. I think public cloud is really two things. It's a payment model, which is the pay-as-you-go, renting your infrastructure, which I think we can't afford. But the whole software-defined infrastructure part of that, which is the other part of cloud, is the bit we're trying to adopt. And I think that's going to become very common in HPC, whether it's going down the route we've done down with Rancher and Harvester, or whether it's OpenStack or something like that. I think eventually compute resources at universities will look like clouds.
Okay, no, thank you for that. So thank you to our guest, Owain Kenway, Head of Research Computing at UCL. It's been great to hear your experience firsthand and the journey that you're embarking on and that vision that you have. So Fujitsu are data center specialists. We've got a wide ecosystem of partners. If you have any challenges or you like what you've heard today, please reach out to us on LinkedIn or the landing page. Details will follow this video. Thank you.